Welcome to the Chef's Kitchen. I'm your host, Nicole Gaffney, and we're here today with Executive Chef Michael Adams from 1741 on the Terrace, located at the historic Hotel Bethlehem. Thanks for being here again.
Great to be here as always.
We always love having you on the show. Well, what are we making today?
We are going to make a pasta dish today.
My favorite. I love pasta.
Yes.
And I see we have some lobster on set as well.
A little bit of lobster, a little bit of beech mushroom.
Nice.
And we're going to make a capellini. We have some Perigord black truffle, fresh Perigord black truffle.
Peasant food is basically what we're making today.
Yeah, that's what we're doing today. It'll taste good though.
Let's get started.
So we're gonna start with we're gonna get the water flavorful for the lobster.
All right.
And we're gonna take a little bit of leek.
Mm-hmm. So are you using the whole leek?
I'm gonna use the white of the leek.
And why is that? You don't want to use the green?
So the green has a little bit of a strong flavor to it. So we're just gonna use the white.
Okay, a little
Now
milder.
we have some water going here, and we're gonna add the leeks. We're gonna add some lemongrass.
Oh, wow.
So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna, with the back of your knife, we're just gonna smash the lemongrass and go all the way across.
Bruise it a little?
And then just cut it in half. I'm gonna put that in there.
I love lemongrass, and it's usually with a lot of Asian flavors.
Yeah.
Thai food, you see it a lot, Vietnamese, but I don't see a lot of those other flavors today.
We're also gonna take a little bit of lemon zest.
Nice.
Some celery.
How did you come up with this combination of flavors to go in here? Because it's unique.
I just happen to like the flavor. I mean, you always want some kind of onion. So leek's a little bit more mild than white Spanish onions. I like lemongrass. I like the flavor it imparts in especially shellfish.
Yeah.
And the celery, just a basic white mirepoix. And then the herbs, your tarragon, your thyme, and your bay leaf.
Nice.
And we're just gonna simmer this for about 10 minutes.
Okay, just to kind of get all those flavors in there.
Yep, the fresh bay leaf. And we're gonna do a little bit of thyme.
I notice you never use dried bay leaves. You always go with the fresh.
Always fresh. Yeah,
Better flavor.
Better flavor, yep.
And you can smell them. I mean, as soon as you go and tear it into a piece, you get that whiff of bay.
Yep.
I love bay.
And fresh tarragon.
Tarragon's so nice with lobster.
And then we're gonna add a little salt as well.
Okay.
All right. And then we're just gonna let that simmer, again, for about 10 minutes.
Perfect.
And then we're gonna move over here and we're gonna start on the capellini. We're gonna take 16 ounces of high gluten bread flour, and that's by weight, not volume.
Very important.
So scale it out, and we're just gonna, every recipe, you see, you form your well. We're gonna take a little bit of all-purpose flour.
Now, why do you use the different flours? What's the purpose?
So the all-purpose flour is just gonna provide a little more structure, right? So it's just gonna provide a little more structure. The high gluten flour is gonna allow you to stretch it out.
Ah, okay.
Okay? So we're just gonna form the well. And just leave about a ½ an inch of flour at the bottom.
Okay, so don't take it all the way down to the board.
And then we're gonna add our 9 egg yolks.
Wow, so this is gonna be a really rich dough.
Very rich.
Nice.
And then 1 whole egg.
Okay. 9 egg yolks. And that's the most egg yolks I've ever seen on set before.
And we're gonna put a pinch of salt. And then we're gonna take so this is always gonna fluctuate.
Okay.
The amount of water. I'm gonna start off with about 3/4 of a cup. And make sure that you ice the water down.
Okay.
Okay. So we're just gonna add that into the well. And you can always add a little more.
But you can't take it out.
You can't take it out.
Now, what's the purpose of using ice water? Why
So
not?
it's just gonna, so if you use room temperature water, what's gonna happen is the dough is gonna like get really soft, right?
Oh, okay.
So the cold water is just gonna tighten the pasta up.
We'll return with more from the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
All right, so we're just gonna move this up around.
Now, do you always do this by hand at the restaurant?
Oh no. We use the KitchenAid mixer and we put it in, use the paddle, and that works just as well.
It does.
Right? This is a little more interesting.
This is more fun for
This is
television.
kind of grandma's way of doing
Totally.
the pasta, right?
Did your grandma make pasta?
Never, never. Chicken and dumplings, that's about it, but
Well,
never fresh
we'll make
pasta.
that on the next show.
Yeah, sounds good.
Pasta is technically a dumpling, kind of.
It is,
right?
it is.
Same family.
Yeah. All right, so we're just gonna slowly incorporate the flour.
So you need to take your time when doing this.
Yep, just slowly incorporate it.
It's like a pasta volcano.
And then just as that happens, just move the flour around.
Okay. So you do a lot of fresh pasta at the restaurant?
So we do, and most of the time as specials. But you know, obviously our banquet volume, we buy really good dry pasta from a company in Philadelphia. That
Nice.
Just that's all they make. So it's really good. But for our restaurants,
You always
any
go
specials,
fresh.
we always make fresh. Yep.
Fabulous. There's really nothing wrong with dried pasta. I don't think it's
No.
necessarily a matter of one being better than the other. I think they're different.
Absolutely.
But fresh pasta really is such a treat.
It sure is. Okay. So now we're just going to incorporate the rest of the flour. Now you can, this is where it gets a little bit
Messy?
messy. Yeah, and we're just gonna gently incorporate that.
Okay.
And now so what happens with when you buy high gluten bread flour at the grocery store, there's always gonna be a certain amount of moisture to it, right? So it's not gonna be ever wet, but that's gonna determine how much water you add.
All right.
You know, that's
It's
always
that-
gonna, and if you have it sitting out for a while and it's a humid day, that's gonna affect the result of the pasta. All right, so this is all coming together.
So what are you looking for in the dough?
So this is gonna be, I'm gonna be adding, I think should be right there.
Okay.
It's just gonna come together. We're gonna add a little bit more water.
Okay, it's a little on the dry side.
Yep, a little bit more. I'm just gonna drizzle that on the fingertips.
So you're really just working by feel.
Yep.
You want it to feel the right way. Nice.
And a little bit more.
Now you guys have a pretty awesome drink program at 1741 on the Terrace and at Historic Hotel Bethlehem altogether. You have a great wine program, but I know you're bringing in a lot of craft beers now also.
Correct. You know, we're redesigning our bar. We're gonna be doing, you know, a 40-bottle craft beer list. I know there's lots
That's
of
a
restaurants
lot.
out there that have 100 or 150, but we're gonna be, you know, focusing on some, you know, again, we're a historic hotel, so we want to have some, you know, very traditional Belgian beers, but we have a plethora of local breweries that continue
There's quite a few.
Yep, and they keep opening up.
And the cask beer.
And the cask conditioned beer we're going to have on draft, and very excited about it.
Yeah, I can tell you are. This is the most excited I think I've ever seen you.
It's slowly evolving. So we're just gonna it's all coming together now, and
Okay.
all we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in that piece of plastic wrap there.
So this has to rest for a little bit, right?
Yep. So we're gonna just flatten this out.
Now what would happen if you tried to just roll it out now?
So it's gonna break apart a little bit, right? So the
Okay.
pasta's gonna break apart. By allowing it to rest, it's gonna soften up a little bit.
Do you refrigerate this, leave it
So
at room temp?
we're gonna put it in the refrigerator for an hour or two.
Okay,
and
how
then
far
we're gonna-
advanced could you do that?
So you can do this a day ahead.
Perfect.
If you'd like. And we're gonna put it right over here in the fridge.
We'll return with more from the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
We're gonna lightly adjust the surface. So it doesn't matter if you use the all-purpose or the high gluten bread flour. You know,
All right,
whatever
for
you have
rolling
there.
out.
Yep, not really gonna make a huge difference in
Okay.
the end product. So we're gonna cut this in 4 so it's a little more, you know, easier to work with. you won't get such long pieces. If we were to roll that whole thing out, it would go probably across the whole table here. So
Which could be fun.
I guess if you have a table that long, by all means. So we're just gonna press this down a little bit, and if
Okay.
you feel the texture of that,
Oh, it's really pliable. There's not
right?
much give to it.
So it's okay. So we are going to roll the pasta out here.
This is the fun part. Now there's different settings on here.
Correct. So obviously you want to start on the largest setting and work from there.
All right.
We're gonna
Just gradually work our way down.
Yep. So we're going to fold that over one time.
Now, why did you fold it over like that? What
So
was the
you just
point?
want to work a little bit of the flour in,
Okay.
right, into the pasta, and we're going to dust it every single time we put it through the machine, because you don't want it to.
This is kind of
You don't want it
drying
to
out
stick.
the dough a little.
Yep.
Can you add too much flour?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. If you add too much flour, it's going to break apart, right?
You don't want that.
You want it to stay pliable, soft.
Or how thin do you
So
want
we're going to
it?
take it to number 3.
All right. And are these standard
They're standard. Yep.
measurements? Okay.
All right. So at this point, we're going to change the.
So we'll put the cutter on.
Yep.
Cool.
We'll put that on. And at this point, we are going to start cooking the lobster tails.
Now, are we doing that for any particular reason? Do we want this to
So
dry out? or-
just for timing,
Okay.
yes, and also to let that dry out a little bit.
So do you want to pretty much cut the pasta right before you cook it? Or is it okay to do that
No,
in
it's okay.
advance?
I'm gonna drop the lobster over here,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to.
Is this Maine lobster?
This is Maine lobster tails.
It's the best kind of lobster around.
And we're gonna cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Is that going to cook them all the way through?
They're gonna be slightly undercooked.
All right.
You know, this is just to cook them a little bit, and then we're gonna finish them when we, finish the
Toss the
sauce.
pasta.
Yep.
Nice.
So we're cooking our lobster,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're gonna cut our pasta. We'll get our pan hot here for the next stage. Just even the ends out. And what we're gonna do, we'll cut it in half. All right.
More
Lightly dust it
flour.
again.
Now, it's probably really important to add the flour at this stage because you don't want the individual strands to stick together.
Correct. So be a little bit more generous on this one because you're only rolling it one time.
Right.
And that's it.
And we're doing capellini, correct?
Correct.
So we have some pretty thin pasta we're going for. This is so much fun.
All right. And then we're just going to roll that up. And then just dust with a little bit more flour.
A little more. Now, if you were doing this step in advance, would you dry the pasta out at this point, or would you refrigerate it or freeze it? What's the best way to do this in advance?
So I would, the best way obviously is to cook it from this point.
Yeah.
Right? So, but you can, if you take them just like this
Mm-hmm.
and lay them on parchment paper with a little flour, and then obviously wrap it in plastic wrap and put it in your freezer,
Perfect.
perfectly fine.
And then you cook it right from frozen?
Right from frozen.
Nice.
Yep. Okay, so we have our lobsters going here. I'm just going to turn those over. And then we're going to start our sauce. We're going to start off with some beech mushrooms.
Beech mushrooms. You don't see these too often. Tell me about them.
So they're very meaty, earthy mushroom, but
so
the
cute.
texture is just amazing. They just hold. They never get mushy.
Nice.
You can cook them
Right.
for a really long time, and they hold up really well. So then we're going to take some of the white of the leek.
Now, leek and shallots are both in the onion family.
Correct.
Why do you use both of those?
So the leek is gonna have a little bit of texture, right? So it's not gonna, the shallot almost melts,
Yeah.
right? So it gets really soft. Well, the leek is gonna impart this little bit of texture to the dish.
Nice.
We'll return with more from the chef's kitchen. We now return to the chef's kitchen.
All right, so we're gonna add the leeks.
Okay.
We're gonna turn that up a little. And then at this point, we are going to take out the lobster tails,
So they took no time at all.
and we're gonna finish those in the sauce.
Do you shock
So what
them
we're
at all?
going to do is, we're gonna leave them because we're using them right away.
Okay.
So if you were making this at home, I would recommend shocking them in ice water. But because we're making this all right now, you know, we're just gonna keep them warm, and then we're gonna
Perfect.
take them out of the shell. So there's a second part to this. We're gonna strain all of these vegetables out.
Okay, so we're going to
And
use
then-
that liquid?
Correct.
Great.
All right. So we're just gonna strain all the veggies off here.
You can even tell just from the color of the liquid that it has some more flavor to it
Yep.
from all that you put in there. And what are we going to do with the liquid?
So we're going to use a little bit for the sauce, and then we're going to cook the pasta in there.
Well, how do you like that?
So
Just
instead
flavor
of
on
using
flavor.
water, right, with a little bit of salt, we're going to have a little lobster flavor. So anything that you're going to add flavor, obviously the end result,
Yeah.
it's going to absorb all of those
So
flavors.
take all the chances you can get.
Yep. So we're going to take the lobster out.
You cut right through that shell.
So you see how it's slightly undercooked
Yeah.
in there? And that's all you want. You just want it slightly, ever so slightly undercooked.
So then when it gets tossed around in the sauce, it's perfect.
Correct. So we're going to take the tail out.
Now, would you save these shells to
So
make a
they're already
bisque or-
cooked. If
Yeah.
they were raw, you know, certainly, but they're cooked.
So they've lost all their flavor pretty much.
Correct. All right, so we have the lobster. These are lightly caramelizing. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this cooking liquid.
Nice.
Okay. And then I'm going to drop the pasta. Then we're going to add some chopped tarragon.
So you're carrying over a lot of the same flavors that you used to flavor that broth into the sauce itself.
Correct. And just take the big stems out of the tarragon.
Nice. So this is going to be featured on your spring menu?
It will be. We'll probably run it as a special
Nice.
on our spring menu. So on the weekend, and we may, you know, not necessarily always do it with lobster. We may do it with some scallops.
Beautiful.
Or some rockfish.
Whatever's
because that comes into
fresh.
season. So we're going to let this cook down almost to dry. And we'll add our cream. A little bit of fresh lemon juice.
Nice. This is shaping up really, really nicely.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do sliced truffles at the end, but we're going to grate a little bit into the sauce.
You're
Right.
pulling out all the stops today.
So now you don't want to overpower this. Be very careful how much you use.
Because it's a potent flavor.
It is very potent. So we're just going to add the lobster back into the dish.
Love that you use nice big chunks too.
Okay, so we're just going to strain the pasta off.
Perfect.
And we're not going to chill it down at all or rinse it. You want to have that pasta, have the sauce stick to the pasta.
So we want all that starch on there still.
And that is ready to go. So we're just going to lightly toss this.
This looks like it's going to be amazing.
And the last part, we're just going to add a couple of slices of black truffle on that.
Wow. And look at how thin you go with that knife. Always impressed by your knife skills, because that's not easy to do.
All right, so we're just gonna drop those in. It's gonna perfume the pasta.
Let me go
One
grab my
toss.
plate.
See how there's just enough sauce? It's not gonna be running all over the plate.
Right. It's all about the pasta. And the lobster.
And then the beech mushrooms.
I think you've outdone yourself this time. Yes, get all of the truffle in there.
All right.
I cannot wait to try this. This looks incredible. You have to have some too. I have to go for the lobster first. It's perfect. It's perfect. This is the perfect example of the kind of food that you're doing at 1741. It's elegant, it's beautiful, but most importantly, it's delicious.